around for about a year or so doing odd jobs, and ended up landing a job with a limousine company. And after my first gig, when I dropped clients off at the Idaho Center, I had gotten mobbed by everybody. They all wanted their picture taken with me, and I was kind of shocked. And it just turns out that I look exactly like Rod Stewart, and that's the way I wear my hair. And it made me realize, well, gee, maybe I can make a living doing this. So this gal hired me, and I worked for her for a while until she moved out of state. Then I went to another company, and within just a couple of months, I had been branded this Rod celebrity chauffeur. And I never dressed in a traditional black suit and white shirt. I just thought it was no way to stand out in a crowd and have people remember you at the end of the night. So I asked, each company I worked for, if it was okay if I just dressed the way I wanted. And they didn't seem to have any problem with it. And all of a sudden, I was very famous in town, and everybody was calling to, get me to be their chauffeur. So after a couple of years, I had the opportunity to start my own limousine company, Rod's Limos, where I just carried on, and I'd been doing it up until this last summer for over 7 years. And my business partner retired and sold the limousine, so at the moment I'm basically on a sabbatical until I can get a new limousine. And I was very fortunate to be as popular as I was. I was the official chauffeur for Make-A-Wish here in Boise, Idaho, and did a lot of charity work for kids, and did some public speaking, and things like that. And really, it was quite a departure from being a professional musician, except that I turned being a chauffeur into something different and unique. People can go to my website and pick out the colors and the clothes they want me to wear for their special occasion. And the inside of the limousine would be decorated in those colors too, with the colored napkins and the balloons and the silk flowers and the satin pillows. So every client was treated very uniquely and special for their particular celebration. So I was sorry to see, that I lost my limousine, because I really did enjoy it, especially doing the Make-A-Wish Foundation kids. And that's basically it. And now I'm unemployed and looking for a new job. So that's that's a quick synopsis of what's been going on.
Well, we caught you at a good time when you got some free time to do an interview. Okay. And by the way,
yeah, exactly. Last September, all of a sudden, I've been trying to keep out of the tabloids for the last several years, and I was finishing up 3 straight years of college online, and I graduated on the dean's list with my AS degree, and realized that I really wanted to write this book on sexual child abuse, and came to the conclusion that I wasn't as dumb as my parents made me out to be. So I contemplated, gosh, should I write this book? And all of a sudden I got all this publicity, and everybody was calling me for an interview, and, newspaper articles. And a publisher called me and was interested in my book. And he asked me, could you have the manuscript by the end of the year? And this was like the middle of October. And I hadn't even sat down and wrote a single word yet. And I said, yes, I can have it done by the end of the year. And, he probably thought, yeah, I've heard that before. I've got lots of writers that say they're going to write a book, and then they never do. I wrote 96,000 words in 47 days, and which is phenomenal, because my whole life is based on I don't start anything unless I'm going to finish it. So I finished it and sent over the manuscript, and they read it over, and they called me a couple weeks ago and said, "Yes, we love your book. We'd like to take it on as a project." So it's in the editing stage right now. So it's completely out of my hands, and I've given them carte blanche to do whatever they need to do to make the book commercially viable. I was instructed to write it with the most brutal honesty about my experiences with sexual child abuse from my father, and the rift that it caused between my famous brother and myself, all because I chose to not let him be abused by our father. And it wasn't an adult decision. It's just what big brothers do. They protect the little brother. And in the end, I didn't even get a relationship with my brother. And he has refused to acknowledge that if it hadn't been for me intervening, he probably wouldn't be as successful as he is today, because he would have been carrying around all this emotional baggage that I had to deal with most of my life. So I'm a little disappointed that he has shunned me, from the family, but I understand it, and I accept him for who he is, and I love my brother, and the book is very brutally honest about some of the things that have happened, over the last 30 years, and the complete deterioration of my relationship with my entire family. So it's, but the book mostly is about the brutal truth on how destructive child abuse can be to an individual, especially when you live in silence, and the path that it puts you on. And the longer you live in silence, the longer it takes you just to get back to square one. So my book is a serious look at the topic, and there's many, many breadcrumbs to show people the patterns of what happens when you don't deal with it. You just shovel it under the carpet. So I'm hoping that this book will touch people and see the breadcrumbs and realize, wow, this is no way to live, that, this happened to me, and it may be different circumstances, but the results are always the same. One of the major problems with abused children is they make all their decisions based on feelings and not the facts, which are inevitably going to get you into trouble. So after 30 years of dealing with this topic, I came to the conclusion that my feelings just don't matter anymore. It's all about the facts, and every decision that I've made in recent years has been based on the facts, and my feelings just don't enter into the equation.
Okay, Randy, let me ask you a couple of questions. But before I do, I want to tell everybody to check out randybfowler.com. And you can see pictures of Randy there, too. He has a frequently asked questions section. And he does look exactly like Rod Stewart, just amazing.
Well, I'm a lot taller, and I'm not as promiscuous, and I definitely dress better than him.
Okay. And also, Randy has another website called rodslimos.com, but they're trying to raise money for a new limo, so they have a GoFundMe, and it's Randy Rods Limo at GoFundMe.com, so check that out as well. So now, Randy, you mentioned that you had a famous brother. Now, who's that?
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, the famous actor, Oscar-winning actor. Now, you described that you were molested by your father as a child. Now, well, first of all, before we get into that, when did this rift come between you and your brother that you don't talk to each other anymore?
It basically started when he went into acting and started to get famous. He just stopped. Complete correspondence with me, and I had in 1988. I had finally got up the courage. I saw him once in Seattle and told him exactly what had happened, when we were growing up, and he was absolutely shocked, And I think what happened is because my brother had such a close relationship with my mother, and my mother spent the better part of her life denying that anything inappropriate ever happened, even though she knows it did, I think she poisoned Kevin against me. And my brother, with his close relationship with her, chose to believe her and not the truth. So I've only seen my brother 4 times in 35 years. So I don't really know who Kevin Spacey is. I know who Kevin Fowler is, but not Kevin Spacey.
Now, does he still have a relationship with the mother and father?
Both my parents have passed away.
Okay.
The last time I saw my brother was at my mother's funeral, and that was almost 12 years ago.
And how did that go?
It was strange. The entire funeral was like an award show. My brother didn't bother to contact any of my mother's friends to invite her to the funeral. So you know how the ceremonies are divided up into 2 sections, family on one side and friends on the other. Well, there were no family, friends, except my sister and her husband and her 2 kids. But on the friends side was my brother's entire staff from Trigger Street Productions. And like I said, the whole funeral was like an award show, and it actually kind of disgusted me on the fact that my brother had my mother buried under an alias name just so the paparazzi wouldn't show up. So it's an interesting story that goes into quite detail in the book on what happened. And when I was leaving after the funeral, my brother promised to call me and that we would keep in touch. And I said, Mother would want us to bury the hatchet and be brothers again. And I haven't heard a peep from him in over 12 years.
Now what about the sister? Where does she fit into all this? Does she get along with you or Kevin?
She used to, until back after my mother died. I had my biography written by a professional writer because I wasn't equipped to be able to write at that time. And the Mail on Sunday in London wrote an article about me, and my sister read it and was really upset that I would, have the courage to write my story to try to help other abused children. And I haven't talked to her in over 12 years also. So she wants nothing to do with me either, because she just doesn't want to have to face the truth about who our parents really were.
Now, you say that you were abused by your father. Now, was that sexual and physical, mental abuse? What went on?
All of them. Sexual, physical, mental. My life was a living hell from the time I was 8 years old until I was 18 and finally moved out of the house just to get away with it. My father started with the lecturing and used to beat me to force me to read when I wanted to go outside and play with my friends. And if I made a mistake, he would whip out his writing crop and beat the shit out of me, because I didn't get it right. And then in 1968, he started on the sexual abuse, and I know my mother knew what was going on because he had brought me in the master bedroom and locked the door behind me, and I was screaming for help from my mother, and she was pounding on the door and wanted to know what was going on in there. My father just grabbed me by the throat and said, "Don't say a word," and I kept screaming and screaming, and finally she just walked away and just gave up. And from that day forward, I was abused a couple of times a week for years and years. And what ended up happening is that a lot of abused children do what they call either acting in or acting out. And I started to act out and became very disrespectful and disobedient. And my parents thought that I needed discipline.